What's your homeowners association horror story? When my brother first moved into his condo, quiet hours were 10 PM 6 AM Sunday Thursday, never really enforced. A couple years later 2 board members sold, 2 new came on board, one being a 60-year-old man. Quiet hours are now 8 PM to 6 AM Sunday Thursday, 10-6 Friday Saturday. The 60-year-old guy will knock on your door if he thinks you are too loud. It's a very young metro neighborhood, loft complex. The old guy came to his door to complain a couple weeks ago BC he thought the pizza delivery guy was too loud. Fined multiple times and threatened with a lien by the hoa because we would not water our grass during a major drought season. It was cheaper and easier to fight the hoa since the city and state passed regulations banning constant watering and green grass. The city had Google-like vans with cameras that'd be driving neighborhoods to catch violators and find them. They sent us a series of nasty notices to remove the dead tree in our front yard. The tree had lost all of its leaves and it was unsightly. Apparently, the catch is that they sent us this notice in November. You know, like fall, when perfectly healthy trees lose their leaves. We pretended we didn't understand which tree they were talking about until spring, when the tree magically came back to life. Our hoa hired a management company to run the day-to-day business. What that meant was a guy would ride around taking pictures of petty bullet and mailing violations to homeowners. I had so many quarrels over nothing. Well, it turns out the hoa didn't have any teeth behind the violations since the bylaws didn't allow fines. Somebody came up with the bright idea to start imposing fines to ensure compliance. That is when I ran for and won the vice presidency of the board. Another gentleman who was fed up with this crap ran and won as well. We didn't have the power to dissolve the hoa, but we decided the next best thing was to paralyze it. Without us in attendance, the board could never reach quorum to conduct business, and they never did. Everyone in our neighborhood received fines for leaving garbage cans at the road. It was trash day. Hoa said there was a surplus of funds and sends out a survey to find out what people want the money spent on: swimming pool, basketball court, etc. Few months later we get a notice that they're raising the dues because they need more money to afford all the new amenities we requested. The entire board was voted out the following year. When we were privately renting in a townhome community, the dumpster had video surveillance so that the hoa could find anyone breaking the rules as far as what we were allowed to dump. One day both myself and So get a itchy call from our property manager alerting us that hoa has fined $250 for illegal dumping. The property owner will have to pay it and we will have to reimburse him. After racking our brains about what we could have possibly thrown out that wasn't allowed, we decided to call up the hoa to see if we could see the video. They would either transfer us to someone else that would hang up, or their hours would change to where no one would answer the phone, or they'd promise to get the video to us the next day, etc. This went on for about 2 weeks. Finally my So got to see the video while I was at work. I texted him to find out what was on it and he said the video was of a middle-aged Asian lady throwing out a bunch of furniture. It was the stupid property owner's freaking wife. My good friend had a story. Her and the husband moved into this gated community. She loves having a bird bath in her backyard, and she gardens a lot, so the decoration makes sense. Turns out our hoa figured out that she had said bird bath in her backyard. Apparently bird bath equals lawn ornament, which was forbidden. She told them she would remove it. A week later she gets another message saying that it hasn't been removed. It wasn't. Obviously her and the husband put it together that the hoa is snooping in her backyard. For a week, she spends her time outside sunbathing in the nude setting her trap. Sure enough, a hoa narc opens the gate to their backyard and sees her in the nude. Instant call to the police for privacy violations. The hoa gave up and let her have a bird bath. She is now on the board of the hoa and they leave her alone. Only plant oak trees even after multiple arborists and botanists informed the board that doing so would give all of them various diseases and all would need to be cut down. 10 years later, all have been cut down because they have diseases and mites. Not mine, but one of my good friends has a rather insane hoa. They actually used rented surveying equipment to determine that his clothesline was 1 inch taller than his fence and fined him several $100s for some stupid structure beyond the fence rule they had. Same hoa has someone walking around actually measuring the length of grass with a ruler and issuing warnings for mowing. Until a recent coup, our hoa was run by some of the pettiest people alive. Some of their hijinks over the years included sending us a nasty letter telling us that we were in violation of their covenants due to bare places in our lawn. We were in the midst of totally replacing the sod in our yard as part of a landscaping plan the hoa approved. Sending us a violation letter because the trash can had not been moved back inside until 10 minutes after the deadline, 6 PM, on trash pickup day, because no one has a commute or an emergency or works different hours than the hoa board members. This was sent with a time-stamped photo of the trash can. And my personal favorite, sending us a violation letter that we needed to replace our mailbox because it was damaged and we would be fined $25 a day until we did so. The mailbox was fairly new, so I went out to look at it. It was absolutely covered with bird poop. Cleaned it off and noticed that there was no damage. Shrugged and emailed the hoa that the problem was rectified. They came out to verify that it was, and I got another letter. More bird poop. A few hours of observation revealed that a hawk was perching on the mailbox stalking a chipmunk that was living in the garden around our mailbox. So I went to the garden store and got a bottle of Predator P stuff that scares away small animals and sprinkled it around the mailbox, causing the chipmunk to relocate. Problem solved. Sadly, I did not send the hoa an envelope full of the stuff. The fake hoa in our neighborhood started off as a neighborly gesture. Cheap $75.00 a year. Cleared the roads. Some spring dumpsters. A summer BBQ. Then the bored housewife who had nothing better to do became president of the hoa. The elections. Meetings. And of course raised the hoa fee 200%. She talked about new street signs. New roads. Sidewalls. And gates into the entrance of the neighborhood. Mind you, our home was the original property back in the 1940s. I assume the owners sold off land for the homes around us. No common areas. Neighborhood pool. Park. Trails. Nothing. I refused to pay or be any part of the little hoa club. She called as I was past due on my hoa fees. I politely told her there is no hoa here, that is why we bought this home. She asked if we use the roads and I said yes, of course. Her response was, well, you need to pay to use my roads. I told her I do. It's called property tax. I asked her to never contact me again. Funny, some participate in the hoa. They just put in $15,000 worth of stop signs. We have 5 intersections. She wants to resurface the over 1 mile road now. Good luck with that. I'll gladly be the one they hate who hangs her laundry out to dry. Do not buy an hoa. My hoa decided that my trim needed to be painted right now. Threatened a $100 a month fine if it wasn't. The trouble is that it was January, and I live near Chicago. As I was buying the paint, the salesperson keeps telling me that the paint won't dry. It will just freeze and fall off within 6 months. I was selling in the spring anyway, so I didn't care. Painted the trim in a temperature of 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Duckers. I think I've posted this before, but I'm still fuming over it years later, so here goes. I went away for a long weekend and left after work on Thursday, late Friday afternoon. My water heater burst in the attic of a 3-story home and flooded my entire townhouse. When my neighbor got home from work, he saw gallons of water running from underneath my garage door. When he realized I wasn't home, he tried to find my phone number, and when he couldn't, he called the hoa to notify me. The lady that answered said that since it was after business hours, it was 5:01 at this point, the matter would have to wait until Monday. My wonderful neighbor ended up calling the non-emergent police line, and they came and shut my water off from the street. When I got home Sunday morning, my entire house was damaged and I could see my attic from my basement. After a massive panic attack and a frantic call to my insurance company, we started the process of repairs. The cherry on top was that I needed to have a dumpster placed in my driveway and a moving pod to remove what was left of my furniture while they began drying out the house, and I got a visit from the hoa. They didn't like how unsightly my home had become and wanted these items removed from my driveway. I essentially told them that they could take their complaints and go duck themselves with them. I got a little revenge too, because I stopped paying their stupid fee since they couldn't find me before 6 months and I was moving in less than 5 months. I'll never own another home with a hoe ever again. Duckers. I wanted to tear out a bunch of evergreen bushes that ran alongside my house. We tore them out and were debating on whether to burn them on site or put them in a burn pile that I knew about 10 miles or so away. I opted to just burn them right there. I have an open area next to my house that is about a 1 lot size. We put the bushes in the open, ran a garden hose out to the area in case it spread. Then I decided that I should get a burn permit. So I printed one off and took it to my fire station to be signed. I came back and put the burn permit on my steps and set the fire. The bushes were fairly green so they didn't want to burn aside from the initial flame up. I needed some accelerant. So I ran to the dollar store and grabbed some cheap lighter fluid. Came back and my buddy tells me that some hoodie came by and told us that we couldn't burn things. He said that he didn't care and was calling the fire depot. About then, I hear the fire trucks getting closer. Hoodie pulls up to see what transpires between me and the fire depot. Fire truck pulls up, sees us doing everything right. They turn off the lights and sirens and waved at us. Hoodie peels out and leaves. We all laugh. Not me but my sister. Her front door broke because some delivery people ducked up and she had it replaced. Apparently it was the wrong color according to the HOA and she would be fined $500 a week unless it's corrected or removed. Because it's totally fine to not have a front door in LA. Another is from a sweet old lady that invited me in for tea and cookies when I was house hunting. The HOA there was $285 a month, below average for Sokol, and she told me that while she didn't mind the committee so much, she wasn't happy when 2 of her potted plants were shattered by kids playing ball around her house and the HOA wanted to fine her $65 a day until she has them removed from her front yard. I ended up buying a home without HOA. They refused to let us have garage sales. My dad protested at a meeting, and the president said it was because they didn't want undesirables in the neighborhood. My dad said, "Oh, so you mean anybody who isn't white, right?" And the president threw him out of the meeting. We had a garage sale anyway. Not me but a friend said they don't allow fences not made from wood, but the LT, governor of my state, bought a house there, put up a vinyl fence, and they won't make him remove it. Who's more wrong? Not allowing the fencing for others, or he for being allowed? My father-in-law's condo corp has a shared pool. The old folks don't like to share, so they have all kinds of silly rules, like no more than 1 guest per resident, residents only times alternating every hour, etc. My Phil can't even take his own 2 grandkids for a swim because he'd exceed the number of allowed guests. So many rules the damn pool is usually empty. Because the residents were still breaking the rules, they passed a new rule that if any resident was caught breaking the pool rules, they would close the pool to everyone for a week and post the offender's name and reason for the closure on the community bulletin board. Ducking children. When we moved in we got permission to build a fence. They said cedar treated pine was fine. Well, a neighbor didn't like that and called HOA. We got an email shortly thereafter from HOA Prees that there were some concerns about our wood. So he came by real quick to give it a good sniff to see if it was, in fact, not cedar. He is now king fence sniffer. Edit. Pine boards treated to look like cedar. Y'all are teaching me a lot about wood. Not mine but a friend's HOA. Was watching a friend's house cat while she was away. Left my car at her house, in her deeded spot, with a visitor tag on it, to drop her off at the airport. Then went home to my house. Slept, went to work. Returned after work the next day to feed cat, check mail, and get my own car back. No car. Call her on vacation. She finds property MGMT phone. I call. They tell me it was towed as it had a flat tire. $290 later. For tow, overnight storage, and a flat fix I had my car back. Duck those assholes. The car wasn't even there 24 hours, and it wasn't flat when I parked it. Not my story, but my dad's. He moved into a new townhouse in summer of 2013. It was a foreclosure property, as the previous tenants were kicked out for not paying their mortgage and for not paying their HOA dues. They gave everyone in the HOA new patios and decks the summer prior. It was required, and you had to get a new deck patio. The tenants had to pay for them in monthly installments in the next 3 years along with their HOA dues. As I said, the previous tenants foreclosed on their home. However, there was one rule placed when they got the decks. which was that you couldn't move out without paying off your deck first. He was told by Hoa that he would not have to pay off the deck because it was foreclosed and he was not responsible at all for paying it off. Sweet. Free deck. He signed off on that. He moved in, but then he started getting assessments from the Hoa for the deck. But wait, he wasn't supposed to be paying for the deck. He fought it with the board. Even with the signed thing saying we didn't have to pay for the deck, the board went against him. He ended up having to pay off the remaining balance on the deck. To this day, he refuses to speak about this topic. It's a trigger for him.